Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective. Good afternoon, East Coasters, and good late morning to everybody else. What's going on? Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by FantasyGuru.com. My name is Justin Fensterman, and I'm with you every single Wednesday. This is a Monday through Friday free show, which gives you a little glimpse into all of our content at FantasyGuru.com, and it's great to see everybody. Ray Flowers hosts Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You got the Midweek Madness edition with yours truly here. Ray hosts on the SiriusXM Elite Sports Show, which you can catch all week long with Jeff Mans, 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Ray joins Jeff on Wednesday. And I'm always hanging out, by the way, not only on all social media at Fensty Sports, Fensty Sports on X and Instagram, but also in our Fantasy Guru DFS NBA Discord channels, our DFS one and our NBA betting channel at Fensty_. Always down to talk hoops with everybody. In general sports, I do some football content for the site as well. Speaking of football, we got our Super Bowl package out right there, proud on the site. Happy that this is out for everybody there. I'm so excited to dive in further. And if you want to get the guide, what it has for you, I'm actually looking at it right now here on the site. You got a lot there between a squares competition, our staff bets, which you can also find in our Discord channels as well. Jeff Mans' rankings for those that might be playing in one and done playoff fantasy contest. Jeff Mans not taking a vacation. He is on it, always on it. That's why you got to also make sure, as part of the Elite Plus Network, you're listening to Jeff's podcast, One Man's Opinion. Comes out once a week. My podcast is part of the Elite Plus Network, Fensty's Basketball Diaries, where I talk about everything going on in the NBA. But you've got your projections that are out as part of this Super Bowl package. You see the link. Go and sign up right there. I'll leave it up for a minute or two as I talk about my prediction for the Super Bowl. There's still a lot I'm trying to figure out when it comes to props. And for that, you're going to have to go to FantasyGuru.com. That's why you join the Elite Mafia, and then we win together, a family that sticks together, wins together. I've said it all along. But I will tell you this, who do I think is going to win the Super Bowl? I don't want to say the phrase that I think the Kansas City Chiefs will accomplish, because I don't want Pat Riley to sue me and make 5 cents of my life savings off of me. So I'm not going to say it. So I'm just going to say that the Chiefs are going to win. They're going to cover. They are going to win their 3rd championship in a row. That's how good they are. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a very close game. I was thinking the under at one point. Now I think it just goes over a little bit. I see the scores being in the 20s, something like maybe 28-23. I'm deciding between 28-23 Chiefs or 23-18 Chiefs. Either way, I think the Chiefs take it. I think the Eagles have had a tremendous season. I think what we've seen from Saquon Barkley, and we could talk about Saquon Barkley and just how great his talents are, but at the same time, and this is something I actually learned from Jeff Mans probably in the last 12 years at this point, 12 years ago. When I started working with Jeff full-time, it was 11 years ago, and back in 2014, he became the afternoon host on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I was producing a show, and one of the things I've learned about, and he said it a lot back then, and it hits home so much more now, because positions, you could say in sports, but in certain areas being less defined, you see it a lot more, the importance of a system and a great offensive line and what it does for running back. Would Saquon Barkley have completely smashed with the Giants as much as he has with Philadelphia? Not without a bolstered offensive line. So we could talk about Saquon, the player, all day long and how good he is, but the protection that guy has is absolutely amazing. In fact, bigger protection than the Death Star had in Star Wars. That's how great of protection Saquon Barkley had. So for those out there that are Giants fans that have your regrets, yeah, it sucks losing a star player. it absolutely sucks when especially the management doesn't really know what they're doing at this point. There's really no direction. It's looking like a total rebuild, pretty much a total rebuild. But at the same time, a lot of that Saquon success being him being a great running back and proving he can handle a massive workload, but also because of what the Eagles bring as well. So I think the Eagles are going to be showing up. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of running from these quarterbacks, by the way. That's not a hot take. That's what I just think is going to happen. You're going to have to see Patrick Mahomes be mobile to get down the field. The big thing in this game is to why I'm hesitant with the over and the under is because the Eagles can take a drive, make it 9 minutes instantly, slows down the entire pace of play of the game. So that's really kind of where I stand right now when it comes to the Super Bowl. I have the Chiefs winning, low spread covering. So make sure you get our Super Bowl guide on the site on fantasyguru.com. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today because I got Armando Marsal stopping by. And I think I'm going to leave this graphic up because it's pretty descriptive anyway of what's going on. And I'm going to cover everything in it. So you don't need to see my ugliness except for I'll say this. I said it, the jersey wardrobe is going to be starting to come out a little bit more. Who do you think I'm wearing here, this Dallas Mavericks jersey? I will tell you, it is my Luka Doncic jersey. Bought it maybe, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And it's very rare that, unless it's a team I root for, that I buy a player currently playing. Reason being because of the reason that I'm about to tell you right now, that while you see me in this Luka Doncic Dallas jersey, this will probably be the last time I wear this jersey, not because it's a little bit tight, need to lose some weight, lose some of the belly that I've got, but also because Luka Doncic, to my surprise, because when I bought this jersey, didn't pay full price, but that's another story. You got to get a discount. You do when it comes to jerseys. Jerseys are very expensive. And look, you would probably think that this jersey was probably like $160. It's not, and I don't care. It still was awesome. But the reason why I don't buy current players for the most part is because if they're traded, it takes some joy out of wearing the jersey. And I don't think I'm going to be wearing this Luka Doncic jersey ever again on the Mavs because as I'm sitting there on Saturday night, one of my favorite nights of the year, by the way. I don't know if anybody that's watching right now is a fan of professional wrestling, but I am a big-time Squared Circle enthusiast, let's just say. And I love the Royal Rumble. I throw a pool for the Royal Rumble. It's all total luck, but there's a little bit of money on the line. It's great. You don't know who's coming out with the number that you randomly draw. It's a lot of fun. But I'm also charting. It's almost like a work night because I'm charting times because there are payouts and there are props. Longest in the ring, most eliminations, whatever. I won't bore you with the details. But finally, I'm sitting there on Saturday night. The Royal Rumble ends. I'm also at the same time following our NBA bets that we have at fantasyguru.com for the night. But I'm sitting there. I'm getting ready to close it down. I'm starting to really fade. My eyes are closed and I'm starting to fall asleep on the couch. And all of a sudden, as I'm brushing my teeth, my phone starts exploding, lighting up like crazy. And I get texts from people before I even get notifications from certain sites. But I all of a sudden see these texts. Can you believe, not even what it was, but can you believe what just happened? Of course, rush to X and not ecstasy, Twitter. You silly gooses out there that take me too literally. I run to Twitter and I see what I thought was a prank, what I thought was the biggest hacking out there of an account. Shams Charania, who's very accurate with his reporting. The NBA is very good about that. When Woj was there, he was very accurate. Shams, very accurate as well. He's reporting and he's saying in tweets, this is not a joke, that Luka Doncic is being traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers. And if your jaw didn't drop from that, then you have no idea what's going on. And it's not me overstating it. It was the biggest trade in NBA history. And I'll say this as well. It was the biggest surprising trade of NBA history. And this is where I'll bring up the graphic here because we've had some trades already. The NBA trade deadline passes tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. You'll see certain deals trickling in right after 3 p.m. Eastern But at 3 p.m. Eastern, that's when the deadline passes. And look at what we've had already. We've had multiple deals, actually. I'll read you some of the minor deals, but we've had 3 major deals. Khris Middleton, heavily rumored to get traded. De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio, heavily rumored for the last week and a half. And then it happened. But Luka Doncic to the Lakers? Not on my bingo card. I never saw Luka playing with another team. Maybe the final year or two, Dallas has had enough. I mean, you saw Hakeem Olajuwon play for other teams. You saw Charles Barkley play for multiple teams. You saw Shaq bounce around towards the end of his career. You see players just bounce around. And seeing Luka Doncic traded at 25 years old, Dallas didn't want to pay him a $345 million supermax, which they would have had to do this summer had they retained him. And Dallas's best part of this entire trade has been the fact that they were able to hide it. Nobody saw it coming. No one. There were no rumors out there. And from peeling back the onion, we're hearing more and more that Dallas actually approached another team about Luka. They didn't want Luka anymore. They didn't. Now, let's not forget, the team went to the NBA Finals last year. The team's not going to the finals. They're not sniffing the finals, the conference finals, after maybe, 7, 8 years. I get it. This kid's 25 years old. They don't like his conditioning. They think his weight fluctuates too much. Not easy to do, keep a body for an entire professional sports season, but it's your job. And that's part of the job right there. Sometimes you, for your job, and I don't want to say sometimes, but I'm going to say often, you do things as part of your job that aren't necessarily required. It's not all about checking boxes. To do a great job, you've got to do the extras sometimes. You absolutely 100% have to do the extras. And if Luka Doncic isn't staying in shape, those soft tissues injuries, they're going to occur more. It's going to be a shock to his body system. And from the Dallas side of it, if Luka Doncic wasn't putting his 100% into the organization, why should the organization put 100% into Luka Doncic? But to try and convince everybody that Dallas getting back Anthony Davis puts them in win now mode, I don't think so. Number one, you're investing in the oft-injured Anthony Davis. He's got a lot of mileage on him. Played a lot of games last season. That could be an outlier season. Number two, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, that sounds great. You've got Clay in the mix that comes through sometimes. PJ Washington, who was acquired last year at the deadline, has been a nice surprise. They plan on planning Dallas Anthony Davis with Daniel Gafford for the time being. They still have Derek Lively. Who knows when Derek Lively is going to be back? But they've got him with Gafford. They're going to start them together. I kind of like that. I just don't see them separating themselves in the Western Conference. Unfortunately, they're in the Western Conference. And here's another thing. Dallas got 1 pick back. And it's not about the actual draft picks themselves. It's about getting as many as you can in a deal like that so you can then flip those picks into players when you start your partial rebuild. The Mavs want to keep Kyrie Irving. That's already been discussed. It already seems like it's going to happen. And Anthony Davis, with that, will be a nice 1-2 punch. But Anthony Davis, to me, hasn't been that good defensively. We all know what he could do offensively, but how many times we attack him with props? Especially when the Lakers were moving a little bit quicker a couple of years ago on offense. We attack them all the freaking time. Just because a player averages double-digit rebounds does not make them necessarily a good defender. It makes them good at grabbing rebounds. It's more than just what you see on the stat sheet. Anthony Davis wasn't closing out players that he had 3 to 4 inches on. He wasn't doing it. Players were able to get inside on him. Very known, very much in my DFS and betting research. Now, Luka to LA. The Los Angeles Lakers are actually having a very good season. And if the Lakers are going to continue having a good season, 10 games over 500, nearly 30 wins so far, but they've got a problem. They don't have a lot of size. Jackson Hayes and Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt not going to get the job done. They have 27 hours, little under 27 hours, the Lakers, to make a trade for a big man. Trade watch, you see it right there. Jakob Poeltl could be dealt. Clint Capella could be dealt. If I'm the freaking Lakers right now, I don't know what the asking price is because I haven't seen a lot of Clint Capella offers. It's clear that Atlanta, as they've been teasing the last couple of years, they're ready to hand over the keys, and they pretty much have done that with Antetokounmpo. Clint Capella will help shut down that low block a little bit, and he's a nice complementary piece to LeBron James, who's kind of more all over the court, more on the outside of the paint. I think that would be perfect. And Capella can give you a little bit of offense too. He's got some post moves underneath. He can box out. And he doesn't need a lot of minutes. But what's the asking price? It's a rental. Who cares? Rent him. Maybe a Clint Capella or another center is like, hey, this guy worked here. I can do more. I'll go here on a little bit of a cheaper deal. But you got to, if you're going to continue competing in the West with the likes of Denver, Houston, Memphis with Jaren Jackson, Oklahoma City, when they have Chet Holmgren back along with Hartenstein, they need a big guy. So they've got 27 hours to make that trade. Someone I didn't write on Trade Watch that could also be out there. When it comes to his defense, though, it's gone down, and I've really just kind of soured on this guy as a whole. But if they're willing to trade him for nothing, maybe a couple of second-round picks, and you send back a scrub, maybe you trade for a Yusuf Nurkic who hasn't spoken to his coach for over 2 months at this point. Just sitting there in Phoenix. That's someone that you could maybe get on the cheap. You just need a big body that can provide a little bit of offense. Unfortunately, LeBron James goes down here. It's going to be very difficult unless they get someone for Luka to not get completely closed out. I don't know what this does when it comes to Austin Reeves' role, because Austin Reeves is the best Austin Reeves when he's on the ball. Him kind of just hanging out there right now, you're going to have Dalton Connect doing that. It makes me wonder if in the offseason, I think that they love Austin Reeves, but at the same time, it makes me wonder if now that you have Luka there, if that's ultimately going to fit. The Lakers just secured the next decade of their franchise. Luka Doncic, not conditioning, that can be improved. That absolutely could be improved. Playing with LeBron James, don't know what's going to happen when he's going to leave. Who you're going to replace him with at that point. You would think Luka's a draw. So we'll be able to bring someone in once LeBron. Who knows how long LeBron James has left? Who knows? But this Lakers team right now, as we sit here, is LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, and Dalton Connect, who's going to be needing to connect on a lot of threes. So they need another big man. And I'm watching The Wire to see if anything is coming up regarding them trading for one of those three bigs that I just talked about. Let's talk a little bit about the Kuzma and Middleton situation. Washington is looking to rebuild at this point. Kyle Kuzma was not part of that. Kyle Kuzma did not look good. When he came back, he looked like he completely was lost out there. Didn't know what he was doing, hanging on the arc, barely moving. And that's great. Good for the Wizards because Khris Middleton's not part of the future either. I don't know what's going to happen with Khris Middleton here, but it was more about getting rid of Kuzma. The Wizards are doing their rebuild properly. They've got Sarr, who they just drafted, second overall. They've got Bub Carrington, who's been a nice surprise. Keyshawn George, who's been a nice surprise. They got to get rid of Jordan Poole, but they'll do that. But they've got some pieces here. Bilal Coulibaly has shown a lot of improvement, but when you're playing next to a Jordan Poole, kind of like I talk about with Zach LaVine, which really sucks for some of our Kings value that we have, And by the way, Zach LaVine is expected to play tonight. I don't know how many minutes. I want to still put some trust into the Kings, but I'm not going to core Malik Monk tonight. I'm going to write up Malik Monk. But if I see Zach LaVine on the ball a lot tonight, that's going to completely turn me off to Malik Monk. Because as I said in Chicago with Zach LaVine does not make the other players around him better. He hampers them. Not going to really have to do much with Domantas Sabonis. Maybe he'll have a little bit of a different role than he did in Chicago. He probably needed to do a little bit more. Sacramento is more of a set squad. So I'm willing to wait and see how it operates. It'll be interesting to see what the combination is because Zach LaVine's going to probably be at the 2. DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Sabonis. I'm interested to see what ends up happening with Zach LaVine and how it impacts the Kings offense. But for tonight, I am going to be looking at Malik Monk still. Absolutely am. He did well. Some of our guys, though, like Bam Adebayo last night, you need the entire second half for them to come through. The Kings tonight have one of the later games in our slate this evening. We have an entire 11-game slate on FanDuel, 9 games, excluding the 2 late games on DraftKings. So Suns, Thunder, Magic, Kings would be eliminated. So if you're on FanDuel tonight, from the Kings side of it, you could trust Sabonis, but remember the Magic play good defense. You could trust Sabonis, and because of the backcourt injuries, you could trust Malik Monk. I'm wondering, though, what Zach LaVine is going to be doing in this offense. Keon Ellis, I have him in there as a value play, too. That's someone I'll look at for at least one more game until I see who Zach LaVine ends up limiting here. Some of the injuries that we're looking at, LaMelo Ball, Joel Embiid, Brandon Ingram still out, Desmond Bane's going to be out. We just found out that Julius Randle is going to miss another 2 weeks at least, which means from Minnesota, and it sucks for us because we've been doing so well killing it on the value with these two. But since Julius Randle's gone down, we've actually seen improved production from both Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid. And I like both of them. McDaniels has been a steady Eddie producer. And he's what I call a gas guzzler. He's not the most outstanding star-shining player, but he plays a lot of minutes. And when you have starters out, when you have multiple pieces out, Dante DiVincenzo's also been banged up, then it's going to mean that he's going to start to get more involved. And he's proven that he deserves more in that offense. And so before his price point jumps to the 7K range, let's keep taking advantage of the Jaden McDaniels of the world and Naz Reid. Especially in this matchup coming up against the Bulls. That's an outstanding matchup. It's a great matchup. The Bulls defense is absolutely horrible. And Minnesota, the only thing that's fearful with them is that it's a double-digit spread, and they can easily completely blow past this Bulls team. But you say that sometimes, and then the Bulls offense, over the last few weeks, I've lost a couple of bets where I've had in parlays teams beating the Bulls, and then the Bulls fight their way back where they stay in the game. So I could be wrong when it comes to that. Minnesota isn't shut down like they were last year. They're just not at this point. Other injuries we're going to be watching out for. I don't expect RJ Barrett to play. He recently entered the concussion protocol. I don't expect him to play. Colin Sexton's dealing with an ankle injury, so he's going to be out for the next couple of games. Outside of that, we're watching Milwaukee. Giannis and Damian Lillard, both questionable. They messed with us big time the other day, and it sucked when that happens. It breaks the balance of the slate. That's why you have to be in Discord the hour before. And then finally, we've got Lauri Markkanen and Cameron Johnson, who are both questionable. Jalen Williams, I just saw a report that he was in shoot-around, which is not only always the telltale sign that someone's going to play, but it's a good sign, and we can start to think about our strategy with him involved. If they're not in shoot-around, that's a bad sign right there. It's a very bad sign. Finally, Chris Paul is questionable, but we're hearing that De'Aaron Fox is not on the injury report, and he's going to be playing tonight. So you got to be thinking that he's going to go in there and he's going to start, but we have to watch that. And that's why we got to talk about maybe tonight being the toughest NBA slate of the season. And now with me to talk about the toughest NBA slate of the season. You know him, you love him at fantasyguru.com. The Mind of Marsal is here, and you can catch the Mind of Marsal on the Elite Plus Network 2 episodes a week. It's Armando Marsal stopping by to talk some NBA. What's going on, Armando?
How's it going, brother? I'm happy to be here, man. You mentioned that this is definitely a tough slate. It's been a tough week, right? And I think until this deadline is completely over and officially over, I think it'll be a lot of volatility and a lot of uncertainty in certain spots, with players that are trade rumors and things like that. So really can't wait to this part of the season to be behind us.
Yeah, man. And it's like, here's the deal with tomorrow night's slate. It's by 3:30 p.m. Eastern, we should know the lay of the land. So we have time to kind of build after that. So it's like, for me, I can't really look at the betting grid tomorrow until 3:30 p.m. Eastern, because that's when we'll know everything by then. But for tonight's slate, bro, I got to ask you, man, and I went over some players that could be shopped. I mean, Nikola Vucevic is still out there. Bradley Beal is still out there. I mean, how do you handle on what, in my opinion, is the hardest slate of the year, the night before the NBA trade deadline? How do you handle some of these names that have been in the rumor mill? Do we just fade off of them completely, or do we play the ball as it lies with them?
It's always going to be based on your risk tolerance, right? I look at a player like Vucevic and I see the matchup. I'm not intrigued by the matchup. There's the red flag of the potential trade. It's a 9-game slate on DraftKings. So in that, I think 11 on FanDuel. So like, given the size of the slate, given the options we have at hand, given the specific matchup for that player, it's I don't want to say easy fade, but I'm okay with, avoiding that situation, given so much volatility and uncertainty with it. So it really is going always to depend on the situation, the player, the matchup, the size of the slate. Tonight, I think you can make strong cases for some of those players who are, possibly going to get moved, or, there's a lot of rumors regarding them being moved or whatnot. I think you could definitely get away with fading some of those players and not taking on that risk, right? Because you look at the matchup and you look at everything, is it worth the risk? Is the matchup appealing enough where you're saying, all right, I think I want to take the risk, and I don't think it is.
We're going to, as of now, have players like De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine playing for new teams. I mean, when you think about this situation, someone like a Fox, if you're hearing he's starting, but we're not hearing of a minutes restriction, are you trusting him tonight that he's going to be able to quickly mesh with his new teammates in San Antonio?
Yeah, I think he's – so, yes, to answer your question, yes, I'm okay with him. If there's no report of a minutes limitation or restriction or anything of like that, look, this is basketball. They know how to play the game. They've been playing the game for years. Is it going to take some time for maybe him to really get comfortable and get going and really produce at the highest level? Perhaps. But can he get it done? Is this a good game environment tonight? Is this something, a game you kind of want to be invested in? I would say yes, right? Like, it's one of my favorite games of the evening. So considering that it's a good matchup, considering it's a phenomenal game environment, in my opinion, and the fact that I view Fox as an elite player, a high caliber player, I'm not overly concerned with him and his role in this team. I think they added him. I think him and Wemby. I mean, I'm so excited to watch these two play together. I think that's going to be an incredible dynamic. Like, what the versatility that they have and what they bring to the table, I really think it's going to be special here. So I'm glad to see this move for Fox. I really am. So I'll be honest with you. Good chance I'm going to be investing in him tonight, so long as there's no reports of restrictions or anything like that.
The thing is, Armando, I love that trade so much. I love the thought, like you said, of Wembanyama and Fox being together, a nice young core being built in San Antonio. My only gripe with De'Aaron Fox is that three-point shooting, man, for the Spurs and for Victor Wembanyama to be at his best, most threatening, you need another guy to be able to knock down threes. Fox has got to get better than 32% we've seen, because what happens is, because Wemby plays on the outside, he's always going to command that double, and it's going to be at the arc or on the elbow. Fox is going to be open a lot, but there's going to be someone shadowing the paint. So he's going to have to hit threes, and he's going to see a lot of open threes, but he has to hit the freaking threes. Somebody else that has to hit the freaking threes in order to produce. Zach LaVine now being in Sacramento. Not as much Zach LaVine, because I'll tell you this, Armando, I'm not paying for Zach LaVine in this situation at his current price point. It's going to have to go and drop. But are you worried about Zach LaVine being there, hindering some of the other Kings options like Malik Monk and even a Keegan Murray and DeMar DeRozan, who we were completely on fire with the other night, the Kings forwards. We had that peg. You had DeRozan for DFS. I had Keegan Murray for the betting. Mwah! Just like that. Now LaVine's playing tonight. How does it change?
I definitely think that kind of throws a wrench into things and it clouds things up a little bit. It's a situation where until I see it really play out and we see the prices adjust, I think that's a big part of it, right? Right now, you have to account for Monk's prices inflated given his usage in the past. The algorithms are not going to adjust overnight. They're going to see the production. They're going to see the minutes. They're going to see all the usage. All of that kind of take a hit, and then they're going to start adjusting. So for now, it's probably a situation where as long as the prices are not where they should be with some of these players, I'm going to avoid it. I do think it becomes a situation where it could be the hot hand on any given night. It could be a little bit more volatile, less trustworthy for cash games, right? And again, it's always going to go down to matchup and pricing for me. But yeah, LaVine being there is definitely going to, I think it's going to cap the ceiling of Monk, at least on a more consistent basis, right? Like I still think Monk has that ceiling, but it's on a more consistent basis. We might see it less and less here. I think DeRozan obviously takes a hit. Murray, you mentioned it. Sabonis. I think Sabonis will continue to be who Sabonis is, but
I think he'll be fine.
I think he'll be fine, but I do think that this is going to impact DeRozan. I think there's going to be fewer shot attempts for Monk. I think Murray obviously is going to take a hit. He benefited a big way, like you talked about with Fox off, but now with LaVine there, it's an extra player who's going to get usage away from Murray. So I am a little bit concerned, but it's going to be a price play for me when it comes to these players, and kind of see how things go.
I should have asked you this right off the top here.
Yeah,
Where were you and what were you doing when you found out that Luka Doncic was traded to the Lakers? Where were you? What was your initial reaction?
Believe it or not, I didn't find out until the next morning.
Because it was late as hell. That's why.
Yeah. Well, it was Wednesday, right?
It was
Wednesday night.
It was Saturday night.
I'm sorry, Saturday night. Yes.
At like 12:45 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, I was already sleeping at that time.
Yeah.
On Saturday, I was already sleeping at that time. I had a long day and I had already fallen asleep. When I saw it the next morning, I'm like, what? But then, so I read an interesting post from a personal trainer who trains with incredibly high-end athletes. LeBron James has trained with him. Dwayne Wade. I've been to the facility, really cool facility. And he posted something that really drew my attention. It caught me, right? Like caught my attention, caught my eye. And I think it makes a lot of sense. He said, when you start, when you look at it first glance, you're like, what the hell are they thinking? The 25-year-old for Anthony Davis who's suffered with injuries. But he said, when you start unpeeling the onion, right? Doncic has a lot of injury history. He doesn't take care of himself. Now, these are some things he can change, right? He could change the way he trains. He could change the way he diets. Yep. But as of right now, he hasn't changed it. Anthony Davis has a long history of injuries, but he's changed his way of training. He's changed his way of how he approaches the game at least from what I've read and from what he's, put out there.
He played 76 games last year.
So you got a player who right now is in good condition, right? Yeah, maybe he's not he's not the same stage as Doncic is in his career, but he's still an elite athlete. He's someone that could help you win right now, and you could still build around him right now and for the next couple of years, right? Whereas Doncic, there's a lot of red flags, and I'm not taking anything away from Doncic, right? Like, I think he's an incredible player. I think that if he is able to find the right supporting cast and the right mentor, and I think LeBron James could be that for him, right? I think with the right people around him, he can change some of his habits and some of the things he does off the court and how he conditions and how he trains, and he could be that guy because he is a special and incredible talent. There's no questioning that, right? And I think of it like Mike Trout in baseball, right? Where it's like he just can't stay on the field. He's special, great, but he can't stay on the field. And now you're seeing that with Doncic, right? With on the court. And so I'm not as, like, I see a lot of people say, oh, Dallas is terrible for doing this. I'm not as bad. I do think that if they're looking at it from a long-term perspective, yeah, maybe it doesn't make as much sense. But I still think they could win some championships with Davis. I think they could, they put themselves in a good position to compete this year, towards the end. So I'm not completely against the trade. I get it. I understand both sides of this. And I actually think it's good for both sides because I think Doncic needed a change, and I think he needed a mentor, and he didn't have that in Dallas. He has that here in LA with LeBron. I do think LeBron's going to play a big role in what we see in the future for Doncic.
So I agree with what you're saying when it comes to why Dallas made the trade. I was talking about it a little bit earlier, and they just Luka's not going to put in his all to the organization. Why should the organization pay $345 million and make him the guy for the next bunch of years? The one thing I don't agree with you on is I don't think Dallas is in win now mode now. I think that this pushes them back. I mean, remember, they went to the finals last year, but I don't think Anthony Davis, as good as he is on offense, I don't think he's that good defensively, Armando. When I watch him, I kind of start like coaching him, being like how to guard the low block a little bit. He just doesn't do that. And I'm not saying he doesn't care. And I know that Dallas is planning on starting him alongside Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, which I think is great. And I think that does pose a threat. If you're going to move PJ Washington down to the 3, okay, now you've caught my attention. I just think the West is so competitive. If this was Anthony Davis going east, okay, I could see maybe making a little noise. It's going to be so hard for this Mavs team now with what they have to be able to beat a team like the Thunder, let's just say, and return to the NBA Finals. I feel like it's just going to be too tough for them. And Anthony Davis, you see it with the issues with Jokic's defense, and now they finally addressed it because you're seeing the numbers go down for how much vulnerability Denver's had to power forwards, et cetera. For Dallas, that's going to be a major issue, especially if Derek Lively is not back in. That front court's going to be right, and I feel like the bigger teams out west, they're going to be taking them apart, including Houston when they're fully healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, and it's tough to argue that, really. Like, there is a lot of competition, and there is a lot of tough teams in the West.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right.
But the thing is, right, they're going to be really big. Like, if once they get healthy, they'll be big. Like Dallas will be a big team, right? Like, so you don't think they'll be like bigger? Like they'll pose a threat to something like the Thunder?
I think that the Thunder just have way too many pieces fully healthy. That's the problem. Like the Thunder, that was a shocker last year with them taking out the Thunder. It's kind of like as shocked as I was that the Commanders took out the Lions. The same thing with that series last year. So I'm not saying that they can't do it. I'm just wondering if Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving can put it all together. And look, maybe they can. And I'd be happy to be wrong because you're right. Everyone's dogging this trade, calling Dallas a terrible organization when, look, you don't see these trades. That's why people are giving the heat. You don't see these types of trades just get made. That's why. Unless it's very rumored and you hear like Jimmy Butler, unhappy, suspended multiple times. Okay, now it's not a surprise if he's traded. But this trade happening overnight without anyone knowing, supposedly, just incredible. And look, here's the thing. I was just saying this, Armando, before I brought you on. The Lakers this year, 10 games over 500, they're going to stay the top 5 team in the West. They need a freaking big man, and they're on the clock. That trade deadline expires. They better hope one of two things happens. They trade for a big man, or somehow, some way, a big man is bought out, and they can get him on waivers.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Here's the thing. I feel like this is two teams going in different directions right now, and I think that's what placed a lot of emphasis on this trade. So I agree with I think that they need a lot of help at center. Like Lakers need help at the position.
And Dallas, by the way, only being able to acquire one pick just shows the desperation they had to trade Luka Doncic. Getting one pick in an era where draft capital is king, not even to just forget drafting, but to trade that draft capital for another rising star one day, let's just say. You see guys like Mikal Bridges getting traded for 4 draft picks. And Luka Doncic only requires 1. They were desperate to get rid of Luka. They went to another team and they offered Luka to that team for another superstar. We don't know that team. Then they went to the Lakers and the Lakers were interested. And I think that's great. And by the way, I think that trade keeps LeBron James in the NBA for a couple of years longer.
100%. I agree with you there 100% because I think like that's part of the trade. Like that's why I kept saying like LeBron is going to be his mentor. In order for this to work long term for the Lakers, Doncic has to change some things. And another thing we don't consider when we're thinking about these trades, right? Because and I'm not saying you and I'm saying in general, people, like, they look at the numbers and the potential. Dallas has a long history of his medical records. Like, they know what is going on with his body, like, more than anybody out there, aside from Doncic himself, right? Aside from Luka himself. So they know something that we obviously don't know. We've seen this in the past in other sports and in other, where you're like, what happened? And then you're like, oh, okay. Like, after a couple of years, you're like, well, that's what happened. Like, that player was dust. Like, that player, and I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying we have to be more open-minded and more, like, not quick to react. Like, kind of see it through. Take both sides of this. Why did it happen? Why is it happening? Why did they make the trade? And like you mentioned, that's another little detail that they only got one pick. What does that mean? Dallas is thinking right now. Dallas is not thinking like too long. I think they're looking at it in a shorter lens. Lakers are looking at it in a longer lens, and they're trying to keep LeBron around for a little bit longer as well.
Yeah, 1,000%. And the thing, and I'll close it out with the Luka situation by saying that when it comes to Luka, this wasn't something they just started 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
This has been a year plus in the making. When you start hearing that they fired all of Luka's closest confidants and trainers in the organization from the regime when Luka first joined Dallas, that also says something right there too. They didn't like his conditioning, like you said. And bad conditioning, hamstring, calf injuries. Luka, no stranger to those lower body injuries. Injuries happen in sports, but when you take care of your body, those strains tend to happen less. You can always stretch out and strain your calf or your hamstring. But with Luka, when it's a lot, you have to start to question. The shock value was massive, but when it wore off, and that's why, Armando, I wore my Luka jersey, because this is like the last time I bought this jersey from overseas for like $5, but I bought this jersey thinking of a current player, thinking I'm always going to be able to wear it. He's always going to be a math. Not anymore, though, man. Not anymore. Outside of that, though, let's get back to talking about tonight's slate, because normally by now when we go on, because you're going to be on the cheat sheet tonight, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're on the cheat sheet. I'm on the write-up. We're both going to be in Discord. I got Watch Along Wednesday tonight from about 7:10 p.m. Eastern. The reason 7:10, once we're done with Discord, I go and grab food and I house it, stuff my face for about 10 minutes. And then we have Watch Along Wednesday until about 9:30 p.m. Eastern. But when it comes to this slate, Armando, who are some of the players that you're right now looking at while building the cheat sheet?
Yeah, so I like I said, I'm focusing on that Atlanta-San Antonio game. That's one I'm very interested in. I think you can have a couple of pieces from that game. Another game I'm interested in is Toronto-Memphis. I think Jacob Poeltl there is very interesting. Like, he's one of those centers that's standing out to me in a significant way here in this game. You're looking at I'm going to go back to Jamal Murray, man.
Oh, he's been the best, man. I want to hug him. I want to kiss him. He's hit so many bets for me. I love him so much.
I really want to go back to Jamal Murray there. He's someone that I think has just, been, like, the price remains really reasonable. The matchup is obviously good. You obviously have the double-digit spread. They're concerning a little bit, but he's priced low enough where I'm okay with taking that kind of chance. Monitoring Aaron Gordon, I still think he's too cheap. He's another one that kind of stands out as like a value play there for me. But yeah, I think those, like, the games I really want to be invested in is that Atlanta game, that Memphis game, the Atlanta San Antonio. Fox. I'm gonna play Fox tonight. So long as he's not on the minutes restriction, I think he's gonna end up in my lineup. I'm not sure if I'm gonna core him. But I do think that he'll end up in my lineup. I think going very balanced tonight is something I'm going to do. And one thing I will say, I'm just going to try to avoid the mines, right? Like we talked about, the landmines that are out there, man. Like, some of these trade rumors, some of these bad matchups. Like, I'm just going to try to avoid that here tonight.
I'll tell you this right now. We got some news. Poeltl is not going to play tonight.
No way.
No, he's not playing tonight.
Did they just literally announce that right this second?
No, they didn't. I wasn't going to say it, but because I didn't want to, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, they announced it. I think it might've been a little bit ago. It might've been this morning or last night. But I'll say this to you. You don't want him active. He's a landmine tonight. He's been in the rumor mill.
So?
Dude, if the Lakers don't trade for him, Clint Capella, or I forgot who else I was talking about before, they're doing it wrong. They need a center, the Lakers. They can't go in with Hachimura, Vanderbilt, and freaking Jackson Hayes the rest of the way. They can't do that.
No. They cannot. They definitely need a center. We talked about that before. They need a center. Do you think Capella? Is that what you think?
I think Capella would be good because he'll help you defensively, and he's a good complement with LeBron being all over the court. You need a guy to just be a low block. You don't need another spacer. You just need someone to clean up the garbage in the middle, and he's a rental. He's a free agent after this year. So to me, from an organizational standpoint, if you're an NBA mid-free agent center coming up here and you're watching the Lakers, let's say they get Capella for the rental, they get him there and he actually works out, but now they're not locked in on him, you might want to go there and play with Luka and LeBron thinking you could contribute.
Absolutely. I don't look at this point. I think players like that, they're not going to be looking for a lot of cash. They're just going to go there and play for a decent contract and a chance to win, right? Right. I think that's the way you're going to have to view it. So yeah, I agree with you there. So
can I ask you about a couple of other players? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I have a couple more, but go ahead.
Okay. I'll go very quickly. Forwards. Trey Murphy, who you were on big time in Discord, by the way, which you were huge on. I didn't want to tell you right then and there. I disagreed with you. I was going the Zion way, but you know what? You were on to something there, and I'm not going to argue with you in Discord or anything like that when you're on a specific thought and I'm watching the way you're answering questions. And I'm like, maybe I'm wrong here. And he freaking scorched earth. You called that very nicely. He was a scoring machine. What do you think of Murphy and then also Jaden McDaniels as well for some mid-tier value?
Yes, so I'm always in on I like Murphy a lot as his price. He's someone that I kind of gravitate a lot towards. Again, we talk about you've mentioned this before, and I think you've been spot on. Denver's defense is not all that imposing. It hasn't been. So this is a good game environment. The only concern we have with Murphy and like I mentioned with Murray as well before is blowout potential, right? That is the concern there. That's the only concern. That said, I'm okay with taking that chance here. I think that the matchup is good enough where you take the chance. I think his price is good enough where you take the chance. He offers us. What I liked about Murphy is his price tag and the ceiling he brings with that price tag. It's just significant, right? He can outperform his price tag by a significant margin, and I tend to gravitate towards those players in good matchups like the one he has at hand. McDaniel, he's been a very steady producer.
Yep.
He plays the minutes. I like that. And
he's a gas guzzler.
Yes, exactly. And I'll say this, I like the matchup, right? We have to like the matchup. Chicago's not that good.
They freaking suck, man.
They're not that good.
I like them for one player. Now I'll like them more with no LaVine. I'm hoping Vucevic gets traded. There is one player that I like, two players that I like on Chicago, and they're the same position. Josh Giddey, Lonzo Ball. That's the only reason it pains me to watch Chicago. Their opposition, it's great because they're getting a monster pace-up spot. It pains me to watch Chicago play basketball.
Yep. They're really, really bad. So, yeah, I like that call. I think I think you're getting a good floor. I think he's cashing in GPP Bible, right? You agree with that? McDaniels? Or
yes.
You're only using him in
GPPs?
No,
I think he is because when it comes to Minnesota, and it's unfortunate that the pricing is starting to catch up here. We see with Julius Randle out just how much offense he has. And it's almost like you've seen The Lion King, right? You know when Rafiki the monkey splits the piece of fruit and everything and he takes a bite? Well, it's kind of like with Randle out, the piece of fruit of production has been split and both McDaniels and Naz Reid are getting a very big heaping piece of fruit, and the fruit is the production that we're getting. So that's my long-winded answer of saying I think both are safe.
Well, if you look at it, so McDaniels has taken at least 16 shots in each of the last two games, right? So he has been getting more opportunities, like you mentioned. He did pretty solid against the Bulls last time, only taking 7 shots. So
yeah,
I like it. 6,500 is a bit pricey, right? We're used to seeing him in that 5K range or whatnot.
We're used to seeing him at 4,800.
Correct. 4,800, 5K, correct. but I'm okay with him at this point. If we're being honest there. So yeah, I think he's fine. I think he's a very good option there. DeAndre Hunter. I talked about that game. His price is going down. Like, I know his production is volatile, more of a GPP play for me, but he's playing the minutes, and I like the game environment. I like the matchup here. So he's someone that I'm kind of looking at as a value option kind of there. I wanted to get your thoughts on. We called this on Monday. Valanciunas. Like, where are you at? Are you in again, or?
I'm still in. No one's going to be on this game. But whenever the Wizards are on the slate, I'm looking at that game. These two teams are some of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. I don't care that the total is the lowest on the board between them at 216. I think that we have to have exposure in this one. And there is a lot of great value. Valanciunas going up against Nick Claxton. I know it's a major pace down. Doesn't matter to me. I still think he's a safe value play. Alex Sarr is out. Kyle Kuzma's traded. More emphasis is going to have to be put on him now. And to be honest with you, the Wizards may actually have to. I don't think they will. They might have to start like Rashawn Holmes or something alongside him because of personnel issues. I don't think that they will, but that's how desperate they are. So, yes, I'm still in on Valanciunas. And you know what, Armando? I'm having so much damn trouble coming up with this core. Even at 6K, he might and will likely be there once again. Want to ask you, though, I'll throw it back to you now. Nick Claxton on the other side. What are your thoughts on Nick Claxton, a little bit cheaper than Valanciunas in a major pace-up spot looking at 30 minutes tonight? It's not exciting, I know.
It's really not. I truly rather go a little bit more for Valanciunas. I get it. A GPP if you want to stack that game, but he's not someone that's standing out to me tonight. Like, he's not. I think there are other options that I prefer. Like you mentioned, someone like Naz Reid is center eligible. I'd rather go with Naz Reid. I mentioned Aaron Gordon. He's questionable for tonight. Right. So like if he's power forward center eligible as well. So I get it. I understand it, but no, I'm probably not going to end up with him. I don't think he'll be in my cheat sheet there. But again, I'm still working on the center position there to see who ends up there this evening. I did want to mention one guy, man, that I kind of wanted to get your take on, and Christian Braun. He's someone that in that game, and again, you see, I'm kind of bouncing around the same games. He's been playing consistent minutes. He's 5,500. He's giving you a safe floor, has a pretty nice ceiling compared to his price tag. A great matchup there. Good game environment. Where are you at with him? Whether Gordon plays or not, I think he's viable. But if Gordon's out, I think he gets a little boost there, right?
I love him so much. Russell Westbrook is out, number one. That's the most important thing, Armando.
Correct.
Westbrook's out. That Westbrook being out gives us that Jamal Murray value right
Correct.
there. It makes him a comfortable. Christian Braun, it's to the point, like I said, I've been betting a lot of Jamal Murray props. You see it in our Discord. But Christian Braun is becoming a threat. There have been room for both of them and Jokic to operate. But the fact that Christian Braun has all of a sudden made this a triangle offense type of three people running the ball. When I say triangle, that's what I mean by it. With him running the floor more with the ball, I have so much trust in him. He is one of my favorite value plays tonight. And part of the reason I think why Armando and I love this Spurs-Hawks game, besides the fact that it has a 242.5 total, is because there's no team on a back-to-back. There's going to be no chess playing with the minutes. In a lot of these games, you have teams on the first leg or a second leg of a back-to-back. Why? All-Star break is coming up. So they got to get these games in. All-Star break, surprisingly, Armando, starts next Thursday. So when it comes to this, the Spurs-Hawks game is one of three that doesn't have a back-to-back contingency towards it, and the spread is low. We're going to be all over this game.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I agree with you there. I have one question about a one value play. He's going to be in my sheet sheet, so I kind of know where you're at. Justin Champagini. Maybe butcher that last name, from Washington.
Oh, Champagnie?
Champagnie, there you go.
Yes. So let me tell you something. When I went to the Wizards-Knicks game about a month ago, I'd say at this time, the one where Jalen Brunson dropped 55 on them and it was an overtime game. Justin Champagnie was hitting everything. And you have to remember there are two Champagnies. There's Julian and there's Justin. Justin was hitting everything. With Kyle Kuzma traded, it opens things up a little bit more. So
yes.
I'm thinking that even guys, I hate to say with Jordan Poole adds value, but these guys do as well. The Georges of the world and the Champagnies too. So they become intriguing GPP values.
Yeah, because he's averaging just short of a fantasy point per minute. And I think he's going to play minutes in the mid-20s, right? And he's what, 37, 36?
Yes.
32,
Everyone
actually. 3,200. So 3,200 could play probably 23 to 25 minutes. I think that's his floor tonight. And averaging a fantasy point per minute, just about 0.98 to be precise. 0.98 fantasy point per minute. I think he could get there tonight.
I think so too. And when it comes to this game, I think a lot of people are going to be on D'Angelo Russell, and Russell is going to be written up. But at the same time, I'm going to caution you. He can be very scoring dependent. If those shots aren't hitting, we're all going to be out some chalky value. Valanciunas, volume producer. I am willing, and he's going to play 30 minutes. I'm willing to eat the chalk there. I don't care how much he's owned. If people come back to me and be like, oh, Fensty, he's 40% owned. Well, you know what? Tonight is it's the hardest slate of the NBA season, because we could be in Discord at 6:15 p.m. Eastern and 2 trades go down. 22 teams active tonight. The chances are really good that it's going to flip our world upside down. That's just the way it is, man. And we're going to deal with it together as a mafia should.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be in there. We'll be in Discord. We'll be keeping an eye on music. And if you're playing, like, this is the thing, like, I've been playing less the last couple of days because of everything that's going on. And that's what I recommend. Like, if you cannot be on top of it, and I'm not just saying 7 p.m., I'm saying before every single game tips off, you cannot be on there monitoring news. I wouldn't be playing that much volume until all of this is behind us. Like you mentioned, after tomorrow, you're good. Or after tonight, because like you said, tomorrow we'll have it at 3:30. But after tonight, you're good. But we'll be in there. We'll be answering questions. We'll be giving you updates. We'll give you anything we hear, reports, whatnot. But things sometimes pop up last minute, especially if you're playing a 9 o'clock game, 10 o'clock game, whatever the case is. Guess what? You have to be on there and making sure that nothing last minute pops up. Like you mentioned, that Doncic trade happened overnight on a Saturday where nobody was expecting it. There could still be one of those in the books here for us in the NBA that we don't know about.
We'll have to wait and see. We just saw Fox getting traded, the Middleton Kuzma trade. Will it be Jimmy Butler next? Jimmy Butler apparently causing the need to decline multiple deals because he doesn't want to sign an extension. But Armando, tell everybody what's coming up for you on the site.
Yeah, so we got my cheat sheet tonight. I'm on the cheat sheet tomorrow. The staff picks will be up by tomorrow. That's the Super Bowl staff picks. I got the Mind of Marsal podcast that will go live this Friday, and we'll be in there. Super Bowl content, NBA content, a little bit of everything in there. So make sure you check all of that out over at fantasyguru.com.
Yep. And by the way, I just want to let everybody know, because I've seen a little bit of discrepancies in our Discord too. Make sure there are certain things that we don't tag. Armando, I'll say this. When we tag at here versus at everyone. At here, the reason why we tag that when it comes to the bets, I always put at here so it gives you the notifications. But we want to make sure that everybody that is paying for the NBA bets are getting the NBA bets, and that there is nobody out there that's trying to beat the system there, because you're all great subscribers. You pay for the service, and everybody, not a single person, should be essentially lifted from that. So that's why when we tag here, and if your notifications aren't coming on, my recommendation is, if you want to bet for NBA, whether it's my bets or Jeff Manz's bets, you have to make sure that you're frequently going into the Discord to check the NBA betting sheets and the NBA betting Discord multiple times a night. Jeff adds bets. He can have a 3-0 night. He'll add bets for the late night hammers. That's what he's been doing with me. You get about 3 or 4 bets in there too. For Armando Marsal, I'm Justin Fensterman. Ray Flowers will be back with you. I'll have a Fensty's Basketball Diaries podcast breaking down everything from the trade deadline coming out tomorrow. Same time, same place, same network, right here on the Elite Plus Network, part of FantasyGuru.com.